After fruitless lobbying in Washington, one British official complained that American promises often peter out to nothing in practice. Similar doubts assailed the Chinese, whose continued war effort against Japan was used by Roosevelt as justification for extending Lend Lease to China as well. From the start, Roosevelt promised extensive aid to be channeled through the China Defense Supplies Corporation, established in Washington under Chiang Kai shek's brother in law, T.V. Soong. But pressure to supply Western forces in the first instance kept aid for China to little more than a trickle. So alienated was Chiang by the gulf between promise and reality that he threatened in 1943 to reach a peace agreement with Japan if Lend Lease did not live up to his expectations. Chiang Kai shek, the ultimate ethnicist, Lend Lease was indeed slow to materialize everywhere. Out of the initial appropriation of $7 billion, only $1 billion had been spent by the end of 1941. Most supplies to Britain from the United States in 1941 were still paid for in cash. Only 100 out of 2,400 aircraft that year came under Lend Lease provisions. American forces were committed to large scale rearmament and resented the diversion of military equipment to Britain when their own air training schools had too few trainers and army exercises had to be conducted with dummy tanks. The Lend-Lease program was operated at first by an ad hoc committee chaired by Harry Hopkins and backed by Roosevelt's new executive powers. But the system for approving and procuring supplies under Lend-Lease was at best an improvisation. On the issue of shipping the goods Britain needed, Roosevelt was less helpful and public opinion much less enthusiastic, since convoying ran the risk of conflict with German submarines. When United States naval vessels began to venture further out into the Atlantic to shield British convoys of Lend Lease goods, Roosevelt insisted to the public that these were patrols, not convoy protection. He also asked that government publicity on Lend Lease should say goods would be delivered, not that we were going to deliver, to avoid any suspicion that American naval vessels were actually convoy escorts. American supply of merchant ships to the British merchant fleet was mainly limited in 1941 to allocating requisitioned axes and neutral shipping in American ports to sail on British trade routes. Although it can be argued that Roosevelt did see Lend Lease as a stepping stone to American intervention in the war in Europe, the evidence remains inconclusive. His regular assertion in public that Lend Lease was a strategy to defend American interests by helping others do the fighting should not be set aside. It was a strategic outlook, also evident in private. In a letter written to a congressman in May 1941, he cited a newspaper editorial reflecting on American strategy. We are not concerned with the affairs of the British Empire, but are concerned for our own safety, the security of our own trade, and the integrity of our continent. Roosevelt added, I think this is pretty good. American opinion remained solidly in favor of aid to Britain, but solidly against the idea of American entry to the war as a consequence.